Hi everyone, today we will talk about automating our builds to ship faster. I will take the example of Xcode Cloud because it is integrated into Xcode itself, and if you have a paid developer program you get 25 hours free per month, but you can use the same idea and concept for CodeMagic, Bitrise or Circle CI or GitHub Actions. So the idea is that you have a workflow where you define certain parameters and then it will automate the build so on certain conditions. So for example, I started a new build for me to show after the end of this video that the name of the commit is SD. I just wanted to get done with it. So I shipped this commit on the main branch, and as soon as that was triggered, it started the build. And the build will work on a remote server which is owned by the Xcode Cloud team, and our code is pulled from our GitHub repository, and then it will start you building the app and then archiving it and then sending it to TestFlight. So this is a process that I do not have to manually do. But one thing that I have to mention is that earlier, if you have been doing it manually where you go to product and you click on archive, the whole process used to take a lot of clicks, but now that process is minimized. You just have to click TestFlight or App Store Connect and click next, and the app is sent to App Store. But it is still a manual process, and that is something that we want to automate. So let's just look on what Xcode it does. The automated workflows, it does parallel testing, it is built into Xcode, which is the most huge advantage, and it also is built into App Store Connect. So one thing I want to show is the UI on App Store Connect itself. So this is my usage for this month. I have done around 7 hours. I still have 17 hours left, and on this day I was shipping the most. So for Foundation Lab I have like 4 hours, and other apps I can have a look on the usage and have a good analytics. So this is the main interface for Xcode Cloud, and the second interface that we get is on Xcode itself. So you have the local, where you do your builds locally, and then you have the option for cloud. And under your main app you have the main workflow called, it will start with the name that you have to give. I'm too lazy to give it a name, so it's called as default. And when I click on it, it has the main build, and on the main build it is running build 30, which is triggered by the commit that I did 5 minutes before. So let me open and edit the workflow. So you can also manage different workflows, like you can have an internal one for a certain scheme that you have, or for staging, and one for production, one for only working on merge requests or pull requests that you get and not when it is committed to the main branch. One is for the main branch, one is for the dev branch. You can have many workflows that you want, but I am an indie developer, I just want one of it. And my workflow right now is working on a separate branch, do the feature or the issue that I'm solving, and then merge it into the main branch. Because last Shipaton, it got in so crazy because I was directly shipping it to the main branch, and I ran out of the 25 hours, so I had to manually do it, and later on I switched to another service. So just keep that in mind when you're shipping a lot, because when you're shipping a ton, it will get to a point you do not want to pay for as an indie developer to Xcode Cloud. Like I just don't. I feel like if you want to pay, you can, of course, but that's more for bigger companies. So coming back to the point, we have the default workflow, and when I click on this workflow, I will start editing it to show you what all options that we have. So the one is the general, where you have the name, then the primary is a repository. It's called as Physica. There's a whole story on one of the other videos and why the name is called, of the project name is called Zenther and not Physica. Then you have the environment. So because I'm running Xcode iOS 26 and Xcode 26, I need to have the latest one. And especially if you are doing the hustle of having the test flight to, let's say, the press or the Apple folks, you would want to have it shipped with the latest Xcode. So one thing cool about Xcode or Xcode Cloud is that they usually have the latest Xcode betas 1 or 2 days later on. The Xcode beta 2 took 1 week, but it's usually at the same time. So we have the current Xcode 26 beta 3 for macOS version, because they have to change the image of the macOS itself. So we are still on macOS beta 2 because they will have to do it for many machines that they have. So, right, but it doesn't matter unless you are building for the latest macOS beta 3 and there are some changes. But if you are running an iOS app, then Xcode 26 beta 3 is perfectly fine. Then you have the conditions. I have the custom branch condition of just using the main branch. You can also have any branch. So if somebody does a pull request, it will start the run. But I feel like that is a waste of resource if you're doing it on any pull request, especially as a small team of one. So then you have the files and folders. I do not want any conditions, so you can have, if there's any change in particular files, you can trigger it. If there are no changes in files, you do not trigger it. And then auto cancel builds, so that if there's a new, if you have been shipping too much and there's another build in the queue, then it will automatically cancel the previous one. Then the action that I want it to do is, after it has taken the code, it runs it for the platform of iOS for the scheme of Zenthor, and the distribution should be App Store Connect, not TestFlight internal App Store Connect, because I want it to send it to external beta testers, and in the future to the App Store Connect directly to send it for review. Then you have the actions. You can have build, you can also have test. This is important when you're doing multiple workflows, but you just want to check if it is building or not. Like, that is the first step before you can even archive it. Then there are post actions. You can have just notify on, I think, Slack or email. Then you have TestFlight internal, where you have your own team of, I think it's 25 or maybe 100 that you can have, and then 10,000 when you're doing it for external testing. And if you want to notarize your app to ship it outside of App Store, you can also do that using the post actions. So I have two workflows. One is for internal, which is just me. When I archive the app, the artifact is the .ipa file that it takes from the previous action and then uses that to send it for distribution. So, and then I have the beta group where it is sending the external testing. So this is the whole workflow that you will have. And when you make any changes, then when you commit some code, it will automatically trigger a new build. So we can see that Xcode Cloud is a bit slow compared to its competitors like CodeMagic. I'm seeing CodeMagic again and again because I work there and I know that they have the latest M2 machines, but Xcode Cloud is still using Linux machines, which are slow compared to other competitors, even Bitrise. And when it's running the Xcode build, it usually takes around 10 minutes for the small build. It will take much more for your bigger builds. So if I see, so we still have to pass time until it's doing the archive. So we can see the logs on how it is working on. You can see that it compiled the whole app using the Xcode build command, and then it is still compiling. Okay, that's pretty slow, to be honest. So I will let it do its work, and in the meantime, what we can do is we can see how a previous let's take a build that was passing before. So I think there's an option to view all builds. So I'll take this one from yesterday that had a green check mark. And then you can see that the start condition was the push code changes. It took the latest commit. The Xcode was beta 3. It archived, and then it sent to a TestFlight and then TestFlight internal testing as well. And it will take usually 5 to 10 more minutes to complete the processing until you will see this green check mark, because it has to send the app to the it processes your binary file before it sends to TestFlight. So I will wait for it to complete, and in the meanwhile, so the build has successfully passed, and you can see that under TestFlight internal testing, it says that it has completed. The archive has completed with one issues. Let's see what the issue is, that the first value was never used, blah blah blah. Okay. And for the external testing, the build is in beta review. Usually this beta review for iOS does not take much time, and it's usually instant. For macOS it usually takes 5 to 10 minutes. So I will wait a bit, and now when I went back to the view, you can see that the TestFlight external testing has completed. So this is the workflow of getting started with Xcode Cloud or any other provider. The main idea remains the same, that you have a workflow, you have conditions on which the workflow will be triggered, and you have some actions like build, test, and archive, and in the end you have post actions, like if you want to have the app sent to for TestFlight or notarization or the App Store. And this is the main idea of working with a continuous delivery service. So with that, I hope you learned something new. Make sure that when you're doing the Shipaton this year, have a CI service ready so you can get the TestFlight. You do not have to spend time on doing this, and just focus on your app and other parts of making an app which is unrelated to building itself. Marketing, you know the word marketing. So I make sure that you do it in the beginning itself, because once you have more builds, once you have more targets, more complexities, it may get a bit difficult, and you would not want to spend time wasting time on just doing the grunt work. So have it from the beginning like I have, and I'm pretty happy of having this whole workflow. Have a good day, and thank you.